Oh. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnuhu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Narayana. Hari Om and good evening from Niagara Falls. How many of you have seen the CN Tower in Toronto? You've physically seen the CN Tower. Okay, so the majority of people have, because you're mostly Indians and you come to Niagara Falls, and if you come to Niagara Falls, then you go to Toronto also. The CN Tower at one point was the tallest structure in the world. And it's near a lake, and where there's lakes, there's more wind. So the CN Tower, the top part of the CN Tower, has actually been designed to sway 7 feet in any direction without that tower actually cracking or falling. If you think of structures in Florida or earthquake zones, the Ring of Fire where there's volcanoes, I'm sure so many homes and structures that have been destroyed in the past, when they were rebuilt, they were adapted to the potential for another hurricane, another earthquake, whatever it may be. As an example, in Florida, they don't have basements, right? Carrying this over to Prince Arjuna. Prince Arjuna is confident. He is. But his confidence is worldly. He knows that his body is strong, that his mind is strong, that his intellect is strong. But he doesn't know what's deeper than the body, mind, intellect. And so that confidence comes to crack, doesn't it? Finally, a challenge is presented to Prince Arjuna that makes that worldly confidence crack. And Bhagavan Krishna, as someone who is the creator, the preserver, the dissolver, he is there to rebuild Prince Arjuna's confidence, not in a worldly way, but in a divine way. And I'm sure a lot of us can relate to this, that some of us are strong physically, some of us are smart mentally, some of us can dream intellectually, and that's fine in a worldly way. But Bhagavan assures you, I assure you, that we will crack with such weak confidence, and this cracking happens by change. We will grow old, someone will be smarter, society will change. Change is that test of us. When they test to see if this chair is strong, they'll put weight on it. They'll test how long tires can last. Change happens to test us, to see if we have worldly confidence or divine confidence. For someone who has divine confidence, they will be centered. They will be ready for chapter 6 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And how to be ready for this, we studied a whole lot last week, and I'm going to do a brief review of that. We began with Bahi Karana Sadhana. That is outer practices. In English we call purification. And that was to be yukta, balanced with ahara, with food, with that which is inputted. Yukta swapna avabodha, to be integrated with sleeping and being awake. Yukta vihara, that is to be integrated, to be balanced with recreation, with downtime. And yukta cheshta, that is to be integrated with work, with exerting. And the main message in Bahikarana sadhana is balance. If we are not balanced, we cannot enter our center, the Atma. From Bahikarana sadhana, we shift to coming closer to Bahikarana and Antakarana sadhana. It's almost a mixture. So half Bahi, half Antaha. Half more physical, half more mental. And this we referred to as the preparation. From purification comes preparation, and Bhagavan Krishna said we should be aware of our desha. When we contemplate, to be in a clean, simple, inspiring place. We should be aware to be ekaki, to be alone, not lonely. Aparigraha, that is to have materials outside, even on ourself, clean, simple, inspiring. Asana, our seat should be clean, simple, inspiring. And remember, the seat you use for contemplation, no one else should use. That is you. That is your energy. It is your relationship. It's almost like an Ishtadevata, but much more material. And finally, to be aware of Indriya, that our sense organs should be disengaged. This we refer to as process, and the message here, as I've been sharing, is clean, simple, inspiring. Okay? When the process is checked off, preparation is checked off also. Sometimes alliteration is confusing. You get to the third part of contemplation, which is the process, which we call Antakarana sadhana. Antakarana sadhana. This is no longer about physical changes, no longer about physical mental changes. This is much deeper. And Bhagavan Krishna said, Nirashi, that one should not be worried about the future. Aparigraha, one shouldn't be regretting the past. Prashantatma, in the present one should be not excited but cheerful. Vigata bihi, one should not be thinking about various responsibilities. Brahmachari vrata, one should not be thinking about various roles. Mat chitta, one should know Bhagwan. Mat para, one should love Bhagwan. Satatam, one should be steady, one should be sincere. Nischaya, one should be determined. And anirvinna chetasaha, which is one should be inspired. So we have the purification, we have the preparation, we have the antakarana sadhana, which is the outer process, and now we are ready for the inner process, okay? It's going deeper and deeper and deeper. Here's what we're supposed to do in the process, in the art of contemplation. And Bhagavan Krishna says we have to free the mind. Deeper than the mind is the ego. Free the mind, free the ego from that which is finite, that which is limited. And when we free the mind from that which is limited, we have to fix the mind in that which is limitless, that which is infinite. And you've heard this before. For all of those who watched the movie On a Quest, there's one key line that Pujya Chinmaya shared many times, and that was detach from the lower and attach to the higher. Detach and attach. So free and fix. That's what contemplation is. That's the inner process of contemplation. But freeing the mind is difficult. And the two problems that arise when we try to free the mind from that which it's used to, its habits, its vasanas, one is outside pulls. When we sit for contemplation, there are outside pulls, whether it's one's cell phone, whether it's smells from the kitchen, cries of an infant, the rain outside. That which is finite is pulling us towards that. It's like two cruise ships that are attracted to each other. You have this finite world which is so massive, and we're just attracted to it. So in contemplation, what happens is we don't allow the mind to be freed. And you know what's even more challenging than outside pulls? Inside pushes. When everything outside is quiet, nobody is crying, it's not raining, no one's cooking anything in the kitchen, but it's those inside pushes, regrets of the past, anxieties of the future. You know, my kids, they don't know anything about culture. What are they going to do? Excitement in the present. Yes, I'm contemplating now. Now what am I supposed to do? And so we get pushed again. The mind just is unable to become free from its encrustations. And so Swami Tejomayananda shares that we have to be vigilant to observe the thoughts and not to engage the thoughts. Observe and not to engage. As long as we engage a thought, that thought becomes real, that thought becomes powerful, and the more that this becomes real and powerful, the more it becomes real and powerful, and finally that thought controls us. I'd shared with you in the past that sorrow is as real as you make it. If you don't make sorrow real, it's not real. I'll give you a small example of this. When some of us had finished the Cleveland Half Marathon on Saturday, so I ran it in 2 hours. 20 minutes later, someone finished the full marathon. Here I am, I completed 21 kilometers. And this person ran 42 kilometers, and all he did was take 20 minutes more than me. And when he finished that cross the line, he was smiling like he was ready to run more. I could walk 10 steps and then I fell down. I fell down in the sense that I'm not getting up. I'm just going to stay here. They can carry me out of this place. I plopped myself right beside the watering station. I was going to drink as much free water as I could get. But really, our bodies are not so different. That person may have been in his late 20s. I'm in my early 30s. Probably the same height, same weight, but his mind towards running is just so much more powerful than mine is. He doesn't take the tiredness of the body and mind to be real. Good for him. As Sheila and I were discussing this idea of being vigilant and not engaging, she tries to practice sweeping her mind. Whenever these thoughts of regrets, anxieties, excitements come, she visualizes that she's in the mind and she's sweeping away those thoughts. And once those thoughts are swept away, then they can't affect you, right? When you put something in the garbage and the garbage people take it, it can't affect you anymore. And I'll make this even more practice-oriented. If you really want to become more vigilant, here are 3 no's that you have to start to practice. No wasting. You shouldn't waste anything. You shouldn't waste food, you shouldn't waste clothes, you definitely shouldn't waste time. No wasting. More difficult than that is to no losing. You shouldn't lose stuff. Your phone, your keys, I left my socks here and I left my toothbrush in this hotel. No losing. No losing materials. And more difficult than that, if you can practice that, is no forgetting. Now everyone's just looked up and smiled, like you didn't even write that down. No forgetting. No forgetting this person's name or where you were last week or where you're going to be in a little while. That you forgot that class was going to be the first week of September. I know a lot of you weren't in class. When I reminded you so many times in May, in June, verbally, visually, we're studying Bhagavad Gita. So, no wasting, no losing, no forgetting. You will find you're training yourself to be more vigilant. You will make sorrow less real then. If we're able to free the mind, now we have to fix the mind, fix the ego. Now, what is the ego doing right now? When we say I, when we feel I drink, I am, that I is the ego, small I. And the ego, when it identifies with the body, what we are doing then is interacting. This body interacts, okay? I'm going to give you 5 eyes. When the ego identifies with the body interacts. When the ego identifies with the breath, that is the pranamaya kosha, or the physiological functions, it inputs. I put in food, I defecate food, I sweat, I circulate. When the ego identifies with the mind, it interprets. Instead of experiencing God's world, I experience the ego's world. When the ego identifies with the intellect, it instructs. We're always having plans on fulfilling our desires, instructions. And when the ego is not identifying with the body, breath, mind, intellect, then you get to finally face the ego. The ego actually doesn't do anything. The ego doesn't serve any purpose. It has no function. All the ego does is identify. And the Sanskrit word for this is adhyasa. That's all the ego does is adhyasa. It's that person who comes to our ashrams and bosses people around but doesn't do anything. That's what the ego is. So you're all thinking, yeah, that's you. You come to our centers and boss us around, but you don't do anything. So if the adhyasa is what is pulling us towards sorrow, we have to change this to abhyasa. Abhyasa means practice. Here's what we should do with these equipments, with who we think we are, so that we're freeing that ego from holding us. Instead of interacting, when you sit down for contemplation, relax the body. The inner process of contemplation, step number 1, relax the body. You should be so relaxed that you don't even know you have a body. Next is, instead of inputting, that's the breath coming in, you should enjoy the breath. Note, I'm not saying control the breath. If you control the breath, what are you really identified with? The breath. And you don't go any deeper than that. You should enjoy. Just let the breath naturally flow in. Let it naturally flow out. No control. Enjoy. Grandparents, do you control your grandkids? You don't. You just enjoy them, correct? It's the parents who have to control them. So just enjoy. You go deeper than that. The mind, instead of interpreting, chant. Here is in the contemplation seat where you chant Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namo Narayanaya. Chant. You go deeper than that. Instead of the intellect instructing that I should buy this, I should achieve this, inquire. Use the same intellect to inquire, who am I? What is this I? Am I happy? And that leads us to facing the ego. And that ego that is identifying, what should we do to it? Observe. Be the sakshi. If we can abhyasa, practice relaxing, enjoying, chanting, inquiring, and observing, we will have made space for the Brahma Kara Vritti. That thought, that message, that feeling that I am not finite, I am not sorrowful, will have space to move around, will have space to settle into our personality. If you follow this inner process of contemplation, we're focused on process in this class, relax, enjoy, chant, inquire, observe, you will come to realize that I, small I, is not. I is not. You will come to realize I, that's capital I, is. Your whole life times, that feeling of I was actually never the body, breath, mind, intellect, ego. This was always I, the infinite. And I am saying here, lifetimes. Today we found Vyasa that he really wanted to be held all day today. As soon as we put him down, he was uncomfortable. As soon as we held him, he was very comfortable. So Sheila and I were discussing that maybe he's thinking about his past life. Maybe he's missing his past parents. And we couldn't explain it any other way. We don't believe it was physiological. And why I'm sharing this is this has to be for lifetimes. And the fact that we're exposed to this in this lifetime shows how far we've come in our journey. That you know what the Brahmakara Vritti is, even intellectually, that's amazing. If you rewind 50 years ago, 25 years ago, 5 years ago, did you know what the Brahmakara Vritti is? Now we have plans on how to make this real. When we are able to observe the ego fades away and contemplation ends. Nididhyasana ends. Dhyana ends. And all that remains is samadhi. For those in the Atma Bodha course, I hope you connected this to Kataka Renuvat. Remember Kataka Renuvat? That fun word. When you have a pool and there's algae on the top of your pool. Our ashram in London actually has a pool for those who would like to come visit our ashram. And nobody knows how to take care of the pool. So now there's algae on the pool. So you have to buy flock. And you pour this flock into this pool with algae. And that flock attaches to the algae and falls to the bottom. And then with a vacuum, you clean it up. In Bharat, when water is muddy, back in the day, they took the powder of it, kataka, it's a nut, and they sprinkled that in that muddy water, and that would blend in with the mud, and everything would fall to the bottom so they could collect the clean water. Contemplation is like that. Contemplation works on the ego and then ends. This inner process of contemplation, I'm going to give you some words, is simple. Did you hear what I said? I said relax. And we already know how to do that. I said enjoy. We already know how to do that too. Chant. Most of our parents are ritualists, so we know that too. Inquire. We're good at complaining and following our complaints. Observe. That's where it becomes a little bit problematic. In Vedanta, they say, Shreyamsi Bahu Vignani. Whenever you try to do something good, whenever you follow the path of peace, there's a lot of obstacles, isn't it? And you know what becomes the biggest, most challenging and intimate obstacle in this? Family. When Hanumanji is going to Lanka, who's the first challenge that he comes across? Mainaka. That's his family member. His family member saying, relax. What's your rush? Come and have a seat. Literally. And Hanumanji's, he's focused on joy or Rama. So he touches Mainaka and takes off. The first challenge that will come when we follow, relax, enjoy, chant, inquire, observe is laya. What does laya mean? Sleepiness. Like so many of you right now. Here we're studying chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita and you're sleepy. And you know why? Because you gave the world more importance than Bhagavad Gita. Why else would we be sleepy right now? Think about it practically. No? All of the people in the West Coast, in Portland, etc., they're so happy right now. It's 5:30 in the afternoon for them. Laya, sleepiness. And I don't have to comment so much on that because we know this, but I'll tell you the cure for this. The cure for laya is swasti. Swasti. Su asti. Asti means being. Su means well-being. In other words, being healthy. You eat well, you sleep well, you exercise well, you are balanced. If you're like that, you won't always be sleepy, lazy, dull. Swasti. Look after yourself. That's why we put a swastika in different places. Let there be wellness over here. Laya. And the second challenge that comes up, vikshepa, exactly. All of you are going like this. Some of you are like this and some of you are going like this. Vikshepa means being distracted, being agitated, being restless. And you want to know the cure for vikshepa? Are you sure? This is going to be a huge shift for us. Stop multitasking. Stop multitasking. When you drive, just drive. When you cook, just cook. When you walk, just walk. When you're reading the lessons, if you're completing the questionnaires, you're only doing that. Stop multitasking. And I know it's difficult. You know why Devi has so many hands? Because that's how many hands she needs to look after us. I observe with Sheila, who has more of a physiological connection with Vyasa, how many hands she needs. He's spitting here, he's squirming here, he's playing with this, he's pulling her hair, she has to free her hair from his hand. Wherever we can, stop multitasking. Otherwise, when we sit for contemplation, we're going to multitask that too, isn't it? You know, instead of just relaxing, I'm going to relax, enjoy, chant, and do everything at once, which means I'm not doing anything. Now, I'm going to take up 6:16 and 6:17 quickly. Bhagavan Krishna shares a most beautiful definition of yoga or contemplation here. Dukkha samyoga viyoga. Now, open these words. What does dukkha mean? That's our middle name. That's our reflection. Samyoga, we're deeply connected to it. See, it's not dukkha yoga, it's dukkha samyoga. Well bound, well identified with dukkha. And so what is yoga or contemplation? Viyoga. Freeing ourselves. Remember I said free and fix. Free ourselves from this finitude, this limitation. Putting this into simple English, I told you that when I think about my own sadhana, I think of two statements. No sorrow. When I say no here, I mean with a K, not with an N. No sorrow. K-N-O-W. When I know sorrow, I will naturally also know, that's again with a K, know joy. But if I don't know that I'm sad, I'm not going to work towards joy. That's what dukkha samyoga viyoga is. To know sorrow is also to know joy. I was sharing in the Vedanta and Ramayana class, only a fool forbears sorrow. Only a fool forbears sorrow. Now, for someone who's thinking about this more technically, if we detach and attach, which comes first? Detach, attach. In rock climbing, you can't just detach, you have to attach first. Whenever we use statements like, if you just know sorrow, you will know joy, remember, we are sharing these teachings on the foundation of knowledge. So it's not just, I know sorrow and I go into absence, I go into nothingness. Me knowing sorrow, it's already built on knowledge that I'm not this sorrow and that I'm this. Okay? I'll explain this differently. If you've not studied the scriptures, if you don't have a guide, when you sit down on contemplation, what are you going to contemplate on? How do you even know about the self? How do you know about infinitude? Does it just by ad hoc you figure it out? See how important that knowledge is, that when you contemplate, you have to contemplate on what you want to become. So when we say no sorrow, no joy, this is built on knowledge. And for that hero who was able to observe the ahankara and comes to realize that I is not the I was feeling, that I is infinite. The completion of contemplation is nirvana. The completion of contemplation is nirvana. That is where all vasanas, all ashanas or desires, all vrittis or thoughts, all karma or actions, all of those are completed once and for all. One no longer acts for fulfillment, one still thinks and acts out of fulfillment. For those who have ever heard of the text Naishkarmya Siddhi, that's what this is. When you're still engaged in action and karma, but it's Naishkarmya, you're not actually engaged in action for fulfillment. For those in the Atma Bodha course, we studied this as Vinirmala. Mala means vasana. Nirmala, less vasanas. Vinirmala, no vasanas. That one being, they're beyond all limitations. Their fulfillment is forever. Infinite, constant, unconditional joy. Did you catch that acronym? Infinite, constant, unconditional. What does it sound like? ICU, correct? Whenever you think of ICU, think of serious unwellness. Now I want you to think about serious wellness. ICU. Imagine that for however many years, decades, lifetimes, fulfillment forever. That is the most beautiful thought. So please keep imagining it. And I don't mean that in a sarcastic way, like keep imagining it. Actually, visualize this. Narayana.